My fellow Americans and autists who voted for Trump, it's your boy Dank Brandon here. I want to take a moment to congratulate the DNC on losing another election to Donald Trump.
Women who know a little bit about being talked down to and know a little bit about having their economic dreams crushed, who tried to dream a big dream over the past couple of months.
You replaced me with a candidate who has the same likability as Greasy, hobo taint and expected to win, and they say I'm the retarded one.
And tonight they're trading in a lot of hope for a lot of hurt. And they were hoping that maybe this time, one of their own could be seen as worthy.
I brought this up before, I'm going to bring it up again. In Finland, kids in nursery school are learning to discern between fake news and real news.
The Democrats said that I was too old, that I was too slow, that I was a joke. Well, here's a joke for you. What do Willie Brown and the 2024 presidential election have in common? Kamala Harris blew both of them.
Help if we could regulate social media, because one of the biggest offenders is D.C. and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations of social media.
Not going to get any better with Elon Musk now in the evidence.
First Hillary loses to Donald and now Kamala. This man has beaten more women than Doug Emhoff.
Once again, they're facing rejection, and that hurts.
Anyways, congrats on losing to Hitler again. I hope he locked you all up this time. Thank Brandon out.
And Newsmax and all the fake news that's been going out there. You know, one of the things that we need to do, and it's not to abolish the Department of Education. As a former teacher, believe me.
Talked about this on this set numerous times, is that you have a state where you've got a 6-week abortion or a 12-week abortion. I think theirs might be 12 weeks. Yep. But it's a state where women lost their reproductive rights, where there was a very heavy push to get women to focus on not putting in place, re-electing, putting back into the White House the person who was responsible for taking those rights away and restoring them. But that message obviously was not enough to get enough white women to vote for Vice President Harris, a fellow woman. This will be the second opportunity that white women in this country have to change the way that they interact with the patriarchy. And, God bless Shannon Watts, who has tried to have that conversation.
They thought tomorrow morning they're going to walk out with their shoulders back a little bit, maybe able to breathe for the first time and feel like they belong someplace. They did everything that they knew how to do. And it's going to be harder than it should be tomorrow for them to hold their heads up. Your child's face was used as a springboard to power for somebody. That doesn't feel good. There are going to be people tomorrow, we're going to be handing clothes at the dry cleaners to people who don't have papers. It's easy to blow this off. Oh, look at the elites. They're going to get their comeuppance. It's not the elite that's going to pay the price. It's people who woke up this morning with a dream and are going to bed with a nightmare.
I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was America makes a perilous choice. I think that in 2016, we didn't know what we would get from a Trump administration, but we know now. And so I worry not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have. And I remember my father telling me many, many years ago that I was the first person in his family to enjoy full civil rights. Profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection from becoming president of the United States. I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. Our healthcare system is now at risk. I think
no fluoride for anyone.
Yeah, economists have made clear that he's going to increase the debt by $7.75 trillion. I'm worried about mass deportation and internment camps, and I'm also worried about Elon Musk warning Americans to prepare for temporary hardship. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Also forget that we are a 60% on a good year turnout country. There are a lot of people, especially low wealth people, this is the Bishop Barber thing he talks about all the time on our shows, is that poor and low wealth people actually don't vote for the most part. They normally sit it out. And so there's a checking out of the system and saying, I'm not receiving economic benefits. College loan forgiveness doesn't impact me. And so people are actually, in some cases in this country, backing out of of voting altogether. So I think there's a tendency to think it's poor people voting against their best interests, when in many cases, poor people aren't voting at all. And so they're just not a part of the system. And so what you have is higher net worth and higher education voters voting versus rural working class voters. But just remember, working class does not mean poor. You could be working class, meaning you're a non-college voter, but you actually have, a second home somewhere in, the Hamptons, and you work in a plumbing business, and you have you're not necessarily poor. I think we have to be careful in characterizing it as necessarily low-wage people voting against their interests and figuring out how to get them in the system at all.
These Democratic leaders are simpletons. They're servants of the donor class. I'm Kamala Harris. I'm full of joy. Okay, well, what did that get you? And they say, oh, Jake, you're too angry. Too angry? What? You think, does Donald Trump look like he's kind? Does he look like he's in a good mood? I mean, no, people want some sort of reaction from their politicians. They want them to represent them. Lying sons of bitches on mainstream media who will smear you to no end, who will fight harder against progressives and populists than Republicans or Donald Trump or anyone else. Well, brothers and sisters, nobody said life was fair. So we got to go fight that mainstream media. We got to destroy that mainstream media that is filled with lies on top of lies about how the politicians are so honest and the donors have no control over policy. They have 100% control over policy. Everyone in mainstream media is a liar who goes, oh, well, here's a bill. Well, I'm not going to talk about the donors at all. I think they're having an ideological debate. Oh, look at that. The donor class won the ideological debate again, but I won't call them the donor class. I won't tell you that it's corporate Republicans and corporate Democrats that are playing good cop and bad cop against you the entire time. So the next time that some son of a bitch on MSNBC or in the Democratic Party tells you, oh no, be a good boy and girl, be civil, and vote for Democratic leaders, they know what they're doing. Those are the same goddamn liars that told you that Joe Biden was totally fine. Keep losing and losing and losing and never figuring it out. Here, I solved it for you. I figured it out. It's a goddamn corruption.